Yes, indeed.
Okay, so first of all, I'm really surprised by this activity in Japan, that you have so many projects related into interface of multidisciplinary studies. Because in Europe now it's not so good with multidisciplinarity, and people are concentrated. Very often people announce that we want multidisciplinarity, but finally there's one panel in physics or in mathematics or in computer science, and such middle projects, they're not so successful, For example, in Europe, there's great quantum information initiative, $1 billion euro. But when we try to apply to them, these are mainly people who do quantum technology, this hardware, software, and they consider all who are doing SV something outside this, just they struggle for the area. Here I see that it's very interesting. Today the talk would be another topic, and maybe it's not related to majority of your interest, but maybe yes. And this is the idea to model social processes by using also quantum formalism and methodology. But here we use a kind of social laser model, and it is more advanced. It is, as you know, physical laser is already quantum field theory. And before, everything was quantum mechanics, system with finitely many degrees of freedom. Okay, so we go to this area of research, and I call this social laser. And all we see that last years, they are really disturbing. That in many places of the world, we have different big social protests, kind of information or social tsunami. So very quickly generated big waves of social protests and demonstrations, violence, and so on. And they characterize it by such things. Action is homogeneous, so all people are moving, roughly speaking, in the same direction. They are doing coherence, we can call in the physical terms coherence. Very quickly, these actions are generated, and very quickly they go down. And for example, we can see it's old picture. After this, we had many new actions. So in Ukraine, in United States, and everywhere, especially this wave of protest when this poor guy Floyd was killed by policemen. It took only a few days. And also interesting that after this, maybe in 1 month, protests disappear. So as I spoke with my American friends, the life of Black people did not become so better. So it was huge wave, it was huge protest. And after this, more or less the same as it was before. So our idea that this generation of spikes, of coherent spikes, is very similar what is done in physics, in laser technique, and we want to do something similar, which we call social laser. If you read political literature in political science, there is a lot of literature about so-called color revolutions. Color revolutions, they are called in this way that before I read these books, and they are really surprised by the novelty of this revolution. For example, before, to make revolution, for example, in Russia, people developed Marxism. There was a very big theoretical, ideological basis behind this revolution, and there was long preparation and so on, and the revolution had very big impact. For example, it was created Soviet Union. Now they told that typically revolution has no, for example, it was a rose revolution in Georgia, when all people just put roses and the big protests, and more or less why color, only symbol typically play the role. People don't have any ideology, they don't have big aims, and they don't have program how to reconstruct society and so on. So, and there were hundreds of such revolutions. The first in the literature they put to Philippines. And Philippines was many years ago also a kind of color revolution, which did not change so much life on Philippines. Yeah, so even in Belarus, they tried to do this maybe unsuccessful color revolution and so on. So this was my main motivation, to color revolutions. But then I moved more to the process of decision making. So this coherent collective decision making. So yesterday we discussed individual decision making, but very often society in general makes decisions. Not only, for example, political decision, but for example, decision about exception of vaccination policy during COVID-19. Maybe in other countries it was more or less fear what was driving people were afraid of COVID. But for example, in Sweden, it was exceptional country. We did not have any restriction, no mask, nothing. It was 2 years of usual life. But after this, government started very strong advertising that you should do this, and it was successful. So 90% of population vaccinated. So this can be also called as kind of social leisure. So now we go to physics, because here we have multidisciplinary community, and I try explain in 2 words how work usual leisure. There are few stages, and first stage is energy pumping. So first of all, there is active medium of gain medium, very big ensemble of atoms. What is important, it should be homogeneous. If material is not homogeneous, different mixing, it would not work so good. So big ensemble of lasers, and then there's pumping of energy in this gain medium, in active medium. And atoms, for simplicity, consider atoms which have only 2 states, relaxed and excited, or ground and excited. In fact, real physical laser is not easy to make with 2 states. They need at least 3 states, but it's more delicate question, yeah? And they pump energy with photons, atom eat photon, and then going from ground state to excited state, And they should pump so energy that it would be approached special state. Population inversion state means that more than half of population become excited. So this is first stage. Pump energy until 50%, at least 50% of atoms are excited. Yeah, first they were in excited state, and then majority became excited. Okay, so first stage, pumping of energy. The second stage, stimulated emission. First of all, of course, it's interesting how long it takes very often until theory is realized in practice, because this theory of stimulated emission was developed by Einstein 1905, but then it was implemented only in 50s. And since we have people who do literature, it's interesting that literature played a role in implementation of usual laser, because in 20s there was written a book of Russian writer Tolstoy about, it was called Hyperboloid of Engineer Garin. It was more or less that one guy developed laser to become dictator over the world. And it's interesting that both American and Soviet physicists, they read this book, and this book stimulated them. In their memories, they wrote, after reading this book, I started to see, Einstein's theory. So it is really maybe not so often literature plays so stimulating role in physics. So now started stimulated emission, and what is this? There's this gain medium of excited atoms, and then they inject in this medium photons, which are going in the same direction and have the same property. Coherent injection. So and then this active medium copy this coherence in injection. So if these photons were moving in this direction, all atoms start to emit the photons which are moving in the same direction. So they copy the direction of these photons. This is the basis of coherence. The second, the process become cascade. So the process should be cascade. Energy should be exponentially increasing its generation. When we have one atom and there is flying photon, it's also emit in this direction, and then flying two photons. They approach two atoms, they emit again two photons, and so on and so on. It would be big cloud of photons, and more atoms emit photons. So it is cascade huge beam. Typically, it can be started even with 3-4 photons. So it's enough only very small number of photons, because medium is already overheated. They wait in something for signal to start emission. Yeah, this was population inversion. So cascade process, exponential increasing power, and the property that it's not only direction, but photons have polarization and many other properties. They are copied from this injected beam of messages. But it's not enough. It's not enough. Any laser has resonator. And these resonators are very important in this social laser ideology, because these are social networks. Why they need resonator? Maybe I think I have the picture. Yeah. I have French collaborators, so this is in French, but it's no problem. So here in this tube, there are active atoms. We pump energy to this medium until they all became excited. After this, we inject, for example, from here we inject stimulating photons, and after this very cascade process and so on, but very quickly they pass and should go out. But it is many atoms are still excited, and more when new energy coming and atoms become exciting. So therefore it is the idea, put here mirror and here mirror, and then the photons are go back and forward. So first wave came here, it is already big but not enough. Then it go backward and excite more excited atom emits. It became stronger, and it's go many times until the beam became so strong. Here is half transparent mirror, so the beam goes through this mirror. So through this mirror go very strong beam, and moreover, if the pumping is very strong, more or less all energy which are coming from out is goes through beam. So here is very important that pumping of energy should be strong. It's over some barrier, and this threshold is called quantum barrier. What is the problem of all this machinery? Why it's not so easy? Because all atoms, and it's also Einstein's theory of emission. When atom is excited, they also have possibility to emit photons spontaneously, just without any reason. Of course, the physicists try to explain why atom emit photon, and there is the theory of zero-point field, that there exists a background electromagnetic field which we cannot measure because it's too weak. But atoms can, and it fluctuates, and when atoms interact with this zero-point field, it emits photon, but it's not clear because we don't measure this zero-point field. Yeah, so because atoms try to make spontaneous emission, and spontaneous emission is in different directions. Mirror is also important because if some photon is emitted not in this direction, but spontaneously, and it's reflected in this direction and then reflected here, it goes out. So it's also cleaning. Mirrors also produce coherence. Those who produced in wrong direction, they disappear. Of course, there are losses. Some go out and so on. So it is not so simple device. But schematically, it's very simple. Now we tell maybe this collective decision making and color revolutions, protests, and so on. This generation of social instability. Social instabilities, it can be explained by model of social leisure. One of importance of this theory is to prevent this using of social leisure, to make society more stable, because it that it can be used, for example, by different political groups and so on, and they are very well know what happened in science. Because last year I was surprised because I got for some grant from American Congress, one American in fact, he was millionaire and so on. His job is very strange, political lobbyist. So job of political lobbyist, he come, for example, to you and tell, do you want to be in Congress? Yes. Have you $10 million? Yes. Give me $10 million, but I don't guarantee that you will be in Congress, but maybe next year you will be, yes. And all they know how is that they know people. He can come to White House and open the door and tell, look, he's a very good guy. And so it's such strange job, but he know about quantum-like modeling. It's very strange, yeah. So, and he came and tried to get some knowledge about this, but what has happened, what they are doing, what they are not so, he's from Trump, group, but they are not so, they're smart. So they try to, when they come to you, before they make your picture, your individual picture, who are you? All your connections, all your relations, what you did. And from this image, they want to make prediction, how successful you can be. And they told that it worked not so well. They use machine learning, they use artificial intelligence, everything. But predictions do not so good. So they are looking maybe that quantum-like predictions would be better, but no, we did not get so much positive in cooperation with him. He went back to United States.
Is this part all right to broadcast, or should I cut this part?
You can cut this part.
I mean, yeah, it's up to you.
Yeah. No. For me, it's this part you can cut, but Trump people can come to you and make your image and suggest you to go to Congress. I mean, no. For me, it's of course I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah. It was lyric. It was lyrics.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have this general scheme from physics, and we try to copy it to social. But of course, we should understand what are these physical things which we can find in social systems. Yeah. So generally, we can look in the same way. Pumping in human medium of social energy. Here appears the word which is very contradictory, social energy. And we should discuss this in very detail. If you accept the notion of social energy, this theory is consistent. If you tell, look, social energy is just bluff, and then it would not work. Because in physics, all laser machinery is based on social energy. So, pumping. So we consider people as social atoms. So they have this state of relaxation, as you know. But you can be excited, and for these excitements, you should get social energy. In which way?
Does it have to be discrete between the two states, or?
In fact, it's depends on your calibration, because even in quantum physics, it's discrete only in textbooks. When you see the radiation of atoms, there is so-called broadening of spectral lines. So roughly speaking, they're Gauss distribution. So it's, of course, there are spikes. So there's, for example, your excited states is some spike. But of course, your spectrum of humans should be very complicated. Yeah, so there can be many spikes. Yeah, but in ideal model, it's just ground state and state of excitation. Yeah. So we pump energy, and then the second stage, stimulating emission of coherent social action. So we inject. Who play the role of photons, we shall discuss. We inject some cloud or some stream of, I can say, quanta of social energy in this medium. And medium should start this cascade process of coherent emission of social actions. Which medium and which properties we shall discuss again by analogy with physics. So there is my book, which was published a few years ago, Social Laser, and no, it's more or less mathematical. There is not so much about something concrete. Now we're going to the basic notion: social, mental, or psychic energy. As we know, since long time, people in psychology and neurophysiology, they discuss this notion. For example, you can read James, Freud, Jung, but it was not so successful, I can say, because it is not easy to determine what is psychic energy. Also, we all have the personal feelings that we have sometimes more energy, sometimes less energy. Yeah? What is helpful for us? What is helpful for us? We use quantum theory. And quantum theory surprisingly simplified this. Why? Because in quantum physics, quantities are not properties of objects. Precisely what we discussed yesterday. When we speak energy of electron, it does not mean that this is energy of electron. It's energy which we get when we perform measurement on electron. So this is energy of electron and our measurement device. When we speak about particle position, it's not position of particles that we tell particle is here. It's not that really, more or less, we don't know what is particle. That's only when we make measurement, we see that we get this answer. So all quantities, they become operational. So more or less, many people who use quantum physics, they speak about operational measurement theory. So therefore, we can define social energy just as making some scaling. The simplest case, I shall discuss maybe later how to measure this social energy, is just ask somebody, are you excited or not? And you make, I'm excited or I'm relaxed. Yeah, so it would be already measurement, operational measurement of social energy. Of course, it depends on calibration, but calibration people do even in physics. So without calibration, they would not get something interesting. And okay, so this is social energy. And then who is analog of electromagnetic field? Because energy is pumped in social gain medium, by information field. So we feel that we get this energy from mass media, social networks, television, and so on. So all communications in this model carry some part of some amount of social energy. And one should not imagine this information field as a wave of information going in this space, because we consider information field as quantum field. What is quantum field? Quantum field is not as usual physical signal which going in space-time. Quantum field is very abstract mathematical construction. No, in short, this is distribution, operator value distribution, or generalized function with values in the space of operators. So, and this, again, operational. And what is the main object of this quantum field? These are fields excitations, or quanta of this field. And how this field is constructed with so-called creation and annihilation operators. So all game is with two quantities. One operator generate excitation, another operator destroyed excitation. So again, description is very formal. You don't need any intuition. You have just collection of operators which generate excitement and operators with relax excitement. Yeah, quantization property is in the following. As you told, the levels should be discrete. And this is maybe property of people, that, for example, people react only on information of social energy corresponding to your individuality. Now, for example, I would never go to revolution even to getting from YouTube the suggestion tomorrow you should go to this place and struggle with police. It's not in my scale, but maybe somebody who has another scale would react. So therefore, it is, as in physics, very important if you want to make social laser to have homogeneous population. So people who have the same level of energy or just operate with this part of population. Now, here first time appeared the word indistinguishability. Here the few people who are very good in physics, Saggio and Masanao, and for me it was surprising that when I was sufficiently old, I first paid my attention to the word indistinguishability of quantum systems. And in fact, practically all quantum statistics is based only on indistinguishability. So to get Bose-Einstein statistic, Fermi-Dirac statistic, parastatistics, we should only assume that systems are indistinguishable. Because before I had the idea that these are mystical properties of quantum systems, that Bose-Einstein statistic for photons, because these photons are very strange creatures which have very strange properties. But in fact, you can get Bose-Einstein statistics only from assumption that two photons which have the same energy, the same polarization and the same point vector, they are indistinguishable. More or less, this is the property of microvolt, or maybe our property, because we still don't know whether these two photons with the same energy and polarization totally indistinguishable or not. This is problem of hidden variables. Maybe this photon has his own personality, but we don't know. Of course, there is claims that Bell inequality tells us that there is no hidden variables, but it's not so simple because Bell inequality is uncontextual. This typically people don't pay attention to this. They just tell Bell inequality told us that it's impossible combined with local realism and so on. But it's better to look to output of Bell inequality from the viewpoint contextuality, non-contextuality. If you are non-contextual, Bell inequality tell you no hidden variable. But if you tell that in this context you introduce these hidden variables, in this context this, and so on, then Bell inequality cannot do anything. And at least when we go to humans, it is very natural to assume contextuality. Okay, so, and for example, there is a book of Schrödinger, which is called Statistical Mechanics. I think it's, Statistical Mechanics, where he derived all quantum statistics. In fact, I started with this book just from property indistinguishability. So he told this derivation of classical statistics from assumptions that particles are distinguishable. This is derivation of quantum statistics only from assumptions that they are indistinguishable. So this is very important. So to get these properties of social systems, which would mimic the properties of physical systems, we should have indistinguishability. Therefore, it is important that social atoms should be as indistinguishable as possible. Of course, we cannot we are different people, we have hidden variables, but maybe in some context. So when people participate in some action and so on, they behave as they indistinguishable. They lose their individuality. So for social laser functioning, it's important that you participate in this event not as individual, but as you're just interested in this event and nothing more.
Can I make one question? It's maybe a bit different from your but is there any determinant that can separate individualism and collectivism? There's often a contrast between like the Japanese or American. But to me, the individualist societies, the individuals are indistinguishable often. And in a collective,
Mhm,
this collective society, individuals are distinguishable.
mhm.
They respect each other. So I think there's some dilemma between that. But
Generally, I agree with you, but we study such regime of social situation when individuals became indistinguishable. No, because when people participate in such mass event, they really lose their individuality. They
in either individualistic or collective.
They are the main. I think this social leisure activities became more. I think you see that world became more unstable. So last years it's very unstable, yeah, and this is precisely the property that under this energy pumping, even individuals become non-individual, at least in this context. Maybe next day they can wake up and tell, oh, I'm Andrei and what I'm doing, yeah. So when people participate in some events, they don't have, it's not important their name, it's not important what is written in their passport and so on. So to be active medium for socializing, they should lose their individuality, maybe just in context. So they cannot lose their individuality completely. Yeah, so this is one thing. So this is indistinguishability of atoms, of social atoms. But photons are also should be indistinguishable. And here we also can find a lot in literature on social science and information, social information, what I call contentless information. Information is more and more contentless. You can say what is, when you see news and so on, there is content. But now it's again what we discussed yesterday. When you are overloaded by information, and look to young generations, they work in this regime, TikTok and so on. When you operate with just labels, with just images, and not go too deep, I can say Boolean analysis of communication. So from this viewpoint, maybe communication has, so to say, hidden variables, but people react only on labels, on signs, on so on. With one, who is she? She's from social science. In Sweden, I cooperate with one social scientist, and she did very big analysis what happened in internet, on Swedish internet, when Russian Ukrainian war started, and she analyzed how people replied to posts. So somebody posts some statement, and then people react. Typically, people never analyze this post. So she read what they replied, and typically it has not so much relation to the previous. They can only write you idiot and so on, but typically they just take 2 words from his post, and then there may be 100 reactions to these 2 words. But if you read further this post, it could be that this guy is not so, for example, this position which was assigned to him, he wrote more and so on. And this is really this situation when people react to labels, and not make analysis of context. This depends on 2 things. First, time and computational constraints, because people do, not so many people are in social networks as whole day job. They, in the evening, they came after job and they look to this message, aha, there is this, and they immediately reply. Another guy looked to their message, aha, there is this label, and reply, and this is cascade process of generation of messages. So indistinguishability in social behavior and consumption of information without deep logical analysis are 2 basic conditions for this socializing. So these are 2 basic conditions. Yeah, so more or less what are conditions for this? People should behave, at least in some situation, as social atoms. So they should lose their individuality. Mass media should generate the wave of information which is sufficiently powerful that people would be overloaded and could not make Boolean analysis of information. And what is the last is social resonators. Social resonator is social network. So you see from TV something, you make comment on the internet, and other people started to make comment. Moreover, there is also called echo chambers. So when your opinion is different from opinion of people in this social network, either moderator take away your comment, or other people just ignore your comment, and only comments which are in the mainstream, they generate more and more comments. So experience of social networks and social resonators also important for social leisure. So this is my viewpoint why we have society which is more and more unstable. First of all, people lose their individuality. They are more and more homogeneous. Information overload, because never before we got so much information from internet, from mobiles, from TV, and so on. So the information which we got now in our brain is really incompatible. And what is also, this is indistinguishability. I read that when people go through, for example, on internet, on Facebook, there's some events which appear in chain. This, and you take this event, and you remember this event only 16 seconds. 16 seconds, and you forgot. Fishes typically remember events 12 seconds. So this is more or less fish behavior. So when we go through internet list, it's okay. So these are these conditions. Yeah, and we go further. So principle of civil defense. So my idea that it should be used to prevent instability in society. So this is, of course, it's not clear how to realize. So this how to avoid processing of information on click mode. So just on symbols, to try to make some Boolean analysis, and maybe prevent homogenization when people lose their national, religious, and cultural root. Yeah, there is a book, Socializer, and actions. So actions need not be just color revolutions, as was at the beginning of my thinking. No, for example, this attack to White House, which was after Trump elections, is also more or less social leisure. It's happened very quickly, and very quickly it was relaxed. Yeah, but people were already excited by these elections, because Trump and his team always told that there is fake counting and so on. But now we think that collective decisions, this theory is maybe even more important. When, for example, government administrations, they want to make some positive collective decision in society. So this can work this same process. Pumping of social energy, and then put this energy to something concrete. So more or less the theory predicts that people would react in this direction of injecting photons. Yeah, social laser. Yeah. Yeah, one social laser can charge another social laser. Indistinguishability we have discussed. We discussed indistinguishability. Photons and what I call infons, excitations of information field, they are very similar. And indistinguishability leads to quantum statistics, yes. And this is, of course, I think should be a very big message for us, because indistinguishability is the property which can be considered for humans, for animals, for everybody. And it's interesting that a lot in quantum world, which we associate that it is properties of microsystems, of size. In fact, not property of size. It's property of behavior when these creatures are indistinguishable. And indistinguishability in human society also has the not only object, but antenna. So they're indistinguishable from viewpoint of some body or some state or some administrative construction and so on. If they are such, then maybe quantum statistics works. Yeah.
Is it possible to construct a physical material that is actually not completely homogeneous, but still can generate a laser? Or is a laser only possible when the underlying material is completely homogeneous?
In physics, they had this idea, but what we got now, and this is our last papers with some people who are very good laser physicists. Maybe I go to, it's a very good question. We go over all these things. Maybe we'll be back to this. Yeah. We found, and physicists never do this because they wanted homogeneous material and it was quite easy to produce it. But now let us consider this gain medium, which is network, where sites are people, for example, or atoms, which are connected by some how to say, vertices, yeah. And we found just pure mathematical calculations that this laser is much better than usual laser. So now we published 7 papers in physical journals, and physicists look to this. Maybe they will construct even physical lasers which are based on graphs. And here the main parameter is connectivity. How many connections has one site? Higher connectivity, better it works. Roughly speaking, connectivity gives us possibility to make less this laser pumping threshold. This social network start to transfer whole energy into coherent physical or social field if this, roughly speaking, it's divided by the connectivity. Threshold is divided by connectivity. So it is really surprising, and it's again, I think, very interesting pathway. So we start from physics, from laser, we went to social science, to quantum-like. In physics, nobody had the idea why to have network, but in our science, network is best gain medium, best active medium. And when we made calculations in quantum field formalism, it looks that this machinery works better. It works better, no, because energy is not radiated, it is going through this connections, and yeah, so this is what we are doing now. What we are doing now, it is precisely social and physical lasers which are based on networks. So connection between networks and lasers. So this was good remark. This was good remark. I don't know where is the paper. The paper network. This paper is in physical review of E. And then also we recently published a paper, I think in, yeah, so what I can tell more, Bose-Einstein statistics, yeah, so this is cascade process, why we hope that it will increase the number of photons would increase. This is how works probability of bosonic quantum field, and in bosonic field, the probability that we have transition from the state when we have n photons to the state n plus 1 is square root of n plus 1, and transition back that photon is absorbed by atom is square root of n. So this is gain. So field becomes stronger and stronger. And the only thing, of course, this is just theoretical model. You need some experimental studies, yes? But this is only from indistinguishability. So if you have clip or label consumption of information, this radiation from this medium would increase. If, of course, this is very difficult to say. What is it? Is it metaphor, or is it model? And yeah, so at least it's if we follow physics, it is this social basis, social lasing. It is connected, of course, with Ising model. in statistics. It's because this is Ising model, and these are ions which have spin up or down. These are spin operators. What is what we did, more or less, what we can look to our activity. To this Ising model, there is additional term. There is active information field. So what was done, this is very big activity in social science based on using of Ising models for agent behavior. We changed Ising model by this active field, and it became more complicated. Social spin, of course, the process which I described, that when physical atom is in the field, and there is going photon in this direction, atom also emit photon in this direction. It's not so simple. Photons and electrons in atoms, they have spin. And this would work only when spins have more or less the same direction. So this should explain why one people react to this mass media injection and others do not. Because we see that in many of these situations when a part of society is really excited, another part of society is totally ignorant. They don't react to this. And this, of course, this theory should be completed by theory of social spin. And I spoke with psychologists, and they have the idea that in brain we have a kind of social axis. They did not use the word spin, but something similar to spin, that everybody has his individual social axis. And if this end of social axis of information and your social axis is small, you react. If not, you don't react. Yeah, whether it have some people even think that it has neurophysiological background, that you can measure your brain. We even had project in the United States, and we applied to the Air Force military agency with this project, but it was not successful. But in any event, there were a team of American neurophysiologists which wanted to measure brain activity under different information fields. Maybe this guy who reacts to this type of messages, he has different structure of brain networks. In fact, this laser activity is very special case of so-called phase transition. Phase transition is, from school, when we have water and then temperature go down. This is temperature barrier is become ice. And in physics, there are many such phase transitions depending on some parameters. So there is some parameter, and when we go over or below this parameter, the properties of the structure change it crucially. So in our case, this is energy pumping parameter, but we can develop many things in social science where we have some transition parameter. When before this level, we have this type of society. When we pass it, society is changed. But here we simply just wrote one paper, and it is this is more or less what we do now. Of course, possible experimental studies. This is around the notion of social energy. So maybe there could be done consistently such methodology. Of course, first methodology should be developed. Calibration. Of course, this is too primitive. Do you feel relaxed or excited? Then maybe it's possible even measure brain correlations. When you are excited, how look your brain? And when you are relaxed, how look your brain? Again, calibration, scaling. The same about information communications energy. One of them, what we used with this, my collaborator in social science, is when you make post on internet, how many people reply to this post. So it can be very raw measure of energy of this post. Yeah, but of course this is there is no methodology. It should be developed. Contextuality, of course, these social laser parameters depends very much on social groups, national, racial, gender, and so on. Again, you can cut this, you can cut the next short story, but it's well known that Lenin, before revolution, he was moving from Germany to Russia to make revolution on train. And train was going through Sweden. And Lenin had one night in hotel in Stockholm. Lenin never lose time for nothing. He went to the street, he went to the pub where Swedish workers, and he started agitation for revolution in German. They could speak German. And after this, he came back to hotel and wrote notes. In this country, revolution is impossible. So he immediately estimated that Swedish workers would never uprise. Yeah, so this, of course, national and racial things play the role. Determination of social laser threshold. When this laser start work, how much information you should pump in this. Another characteristic which very important and maybe also has neurophysiological correlations. There is important so-called excitation time of atom. How long atom would be excited? If it's very quickly relaxed and emit photon, it is impossible to make laser because it's just it and put. He was excited by some communication, but go to kitchen and start to cry to his wife, and that's all. Yeah, it should collect social energy. Yeah. And testing quantum statistics for social systems. Yeah, so both Einstein and we have formulas for average number of people in each state. And here can be game how indistinguishable are people and how strong. Of course, we would not get precisely Bose-Einstein statistics. It would be some, even if we get it, if it is some approximation. So there should be maybe the play between some parameter of indistinguishability, how people are indistinguishable, and how strongly they generate quantum-like statistics. Yeah, so this is more or less totally different topic. Here, the most attractive for me is connection with social networks, and generally with networks, and with internet, YouTube, Twitter, and all this information which we call social laser resonators, and maybe even with decision making, how it can be used for generating decision making, and also how prevent instabilities. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So do you have any questions?
I'm very interested in defining the social energy. So I think that one of the main fundamental point.
Yeah, this is the key point. Yeah.
Also, how to measure is to the social energy. So I think one candidate is some percentage of time of people's 24 hours for business, for hobby or something, but to attend some kind of social activity. The time, maybe some kind of the representative for.
Yeah, I understood your idea. Yes.
Do you have some?
No, I'm theoretician. I never did say anything practical, I can say, yeah. So, but it's not bad idea, yeah. I spoke with American psychologists and they had also ideas, but it was not realized. So it was not realized because they went another direction, yeah.
So I have one question. So what is the most important constraint condition to make a social laser?
No, for me, it's that we overloaded by information, and moreover, we are more and more trained to get not consume information with deep analysis, but just taking keywords, labels, clips, and so on. Now, if you speak with young generations, they really work in TikTok regime, and they get information. So we now travel with daughter, and she, for example, had images of some places in Kyoto, And she immediately recognized, here we should go to the second floor and then there will be a restaurant. Yeah, but maybe she does not know anything more about Kyoto. So that the restaurant is on the second floor. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, so this clip thinking. It can be tested, I think, in experiments when people
Yeah.
consume information in this way. Or, yeah.
So, yeah. So to make actual laser, there are lots of constraints.
Mhm.
So it's hard to make, but so based on your talk, so these days, it's so easy to make a social laser.
This is my main message. That nowadays, it's of course it was more or less even before, but before to make this social lasing, people should make very big preparation. First, to pump energy was not so easy, and so on. And I think nowadays it's much easier. Therefore, I think these instabilities are stronger and stronger in societies. Yeah.
Another point is loss of individuality. It's just a comment that how do you think about in Japan, especially in the internet space, the rather extreme right-wing people use a very typical kind of term in Japanese, 普通の日本人. 普通の日本人 means a general Japanese. I am a general Japanese. This kind of
This also good label. It's just label.
Yeah, label. But this label is very interesting for me because it is on one hand the loss of individuality, but on the other, maybe it's related to the Ericsson's comment. But also this is very collective.
Yeah, collective. Yeah.
Concept. And there is some internet meme. General Japanese general adult man who comments on some USA kind of social media as a direct translation of 私は普通の日本人ですね。So general means some kind of armies, so it's like a joke. But
when we look to individuals, this is loss of individuality. If you are general Japanese, you are not more you. Yes. Yeah. General Russian. I'm not general Russian. I don't feel me as general Russian. And so it's again loss of individuality. Yeah. So even this conservative in the United States, they also thought we are conservative. And this is loss of individuality, because if you speak with conservative guy, he has a list of statements. He cannot go away from this list. Yeah, so this is
that it's related to this, but I've been thinking about this collective action. Probably has at least two major different kind of forms, like good teams with many kind of diversity and conflict, and then generating some kind of new ideas and so on. And the other thing is exactly like in the social laser type, where coherence matters, and then it's just a power to promote things, just without any idea generation or anything, just do things, right? And these are also potentially related to not only the collectivism and the individualism or loss of individuality, but we may be able to quantify something with the integrated information. We haven't talked much about that. The loss of individuality will probably generate very low integrated information.
Maybe. But if he tells that it is now work very well, the best example is the republic which is called Kyrgyzstan in former Soviet Union. This is Pamir mountains region. They had 5 color revolutions. So they really society which is once in 3 years they're terribly excited. They destroy the government, brutal uprising. After this, again, stabilization. And nothing happened in this country. Country is poor, very nothing. And then in 2 years, again, started new group. More or less, it looks that now some groups of people can use this strategy. They started to promote their color. And after this, they have, again, terrible uprising, everything destroyed, and 5 times. And there is no memory about previous and Yeah. Yeah. And maybe if you have just 1 minute, if speak about real applications of this quantum like, what we did recently with my colleagues in Tel Aviv, they work in mental hospital, and they have this EEG from brain, and there were a lot of attempts to use EEG to determine mental diseases. EEG work very well for many things, but for example, to determine where some guy is schizophrenic or not, it's not so good. And we did some very interesting construction, which we represent this EEG not in usual way, but as a tree, hierarchic structure. So our idea that consciousness operates not with amplitudes, but with hierarchies. So we represent this graphic of amplitudes as tree of hierarchies. So brain each minute operates with hierarchies. This hierarchical tree is transformed to another and so on. This is idea. We don't know what happened in brain. After this, we did a really strange thing. I don't know how many of you know about Bohmian mechanics. Bohmian mechanics, and they have so-called pilot wave or quantum potential. So in Bohmian model, its picture is the following. There is a particle on the, for example, small ball in the sea. There are waves on the sea and ball moving on these waves. So we can calculate from probability distribution this quantum potential. And it's a really amazing result. We got even 2 patents that is distinguish really very good people with different personal disorders. When the usual EEG cannot do, quantum potentials are different. Quantum potential of schizophrenic is different from quantum potential of normal guy. So it is also quantum-like application, but in a bit tricky way. Yeah. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, did you get the email yesterday?
Yesterday I got, but what happened?